Zaffa presents Fire on the Horizon, written by Wilbur Smith and Imogen Robertson, and read by Elliot Chapman. Part 1. 1899. Colonel Penrod Ballantyne, hero of Abu Klea and Omdurman, pulled his wide-brimmed hat low over his forehead and pretended to doze while the train rattled north across the open veld towards Johannesburg. In the winter sunshine of early June, the Great Plains unrolled to a far horizon. Pale grasses and low thorn bushes, desperate for rain under the vast blue sky, shook in the breeze as the train passed. There was no sign of a human hand other than the narrow train tracks reaching into the distance. Penrod, dressed in the loose, hard-wearing clothes of a working man, his skin tanned to the color of polished teak by the African sun, paid no attention to the view. Through half-closed eyes, he was watching the two other occupants of the carriage. The man, dressed in a formal black suit, stared out of the window, frowning, his fingers gripping the bowl of his unlit pipe. Next to him was a girl, 13 perhaps, wearing a long dress of forget-me-not blue and a cream bonnet, the colors emphasizing her fair skin, the cut drawing attention to her high cheekbones and long, graceful neck. She was reading the Bible. The man was Gerrit Voigtner. He was returning home with his daughter after the failed talks with the British over the future governance of the Transvaal in Ballantynes. He was a man of means and reputation, with farms and a thriving business empire in the Transvaal. In his youth, he had ridden with General Nicolaas Smit and delivered the British humiliating defeats at Ngogo and Majuba Hill. Now, in his 50s, he was still strong and vigorous, his thick beard shot through with grey. Penrod had been travelling through the Transvaal for some weeks now. He had left his wife and son in Cairo, working his way down the east coast of Africa, Mombasa, Stone Town, Dar es Salaam, Beira, before arriving in Lourenço Marques, the capital of Portuguese East Africa, in the guise of John Quinn, exiled Irish patriot, occasional farmhand and mine worker, a man deeply sympathetic to the Boer struggle against British imperialism. After a night at the Carlton Hotel, the newly completed railway, the pride of the Transvaal, had taken him from the wide tree-lined streets of Lourenço Marques, the dhows riding at anchor in the turquoise water of the harbour, up to the yellow dust of the Highveld, through Komatipoort, Nelspruit, Pretoria, and Bloemfontein. While in Bloemfontein, Penrod had kept several prominent Boers under observation, Voigtner being one of them. Then, 2 nights ago, he had overheard a muttered conference about his man, which had decided him on his journey and this carriage. The rear door opened suddenly, a blast of noise, the thundering churn of the wheels on the track shattering the peace of the almost empty carriage. "Here, boys, more room to spread out in first class." The man who had spoken strutted into the carriage. His clothes, dirty and badly patched, hung loose on his tall, stringy body, and under different circumstances Penrod would have taken him for a vagrant. But the rifle he had slung over his shoulder was a Mauser, and he wore a knife and a gun at his belt. He was followed by 2 companions, dusty and unkempt, but heavier. One with a dusting of freckles across his face, the other with a scar running from his temple down into his sparse beard. Their eyes were dull and brutish, and the stink of the previous night's cheap alcohol followed them in a cloud. Penrod remained motionless, observing the new arrival and his friends from under the brim of his hat. He had been expecting them. The first man grinned like a dog baring its teeth, then nodded to his freckled friend. The man slid along the bench behind Penrod, unsheathing his hunting knife and placing it against Penrod's throat with such alacrity that even Penrod was surprised by the speed of his movement. "My name's Alfred," he said in a foul-smelling whisper, "and this is no business of yours." Penrod felt the pressure of the blade against his windpipe increase slightly. "So you and me are going to sit here nicely like good friends, while Cecil and Barney there conclude our business with the fat farmer and his girl. Nod to show me that you mean to be a sensible fellow." Penrod nodded slightly, feeling the
Sample complete. Ready to continue?